Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Keefe, aka Michael Jackson impersonator and a reenactor, they call me, but that's not why I'm here. My reason for being here is to, let all of you know that I'm in support to the movie coming out, Michael, and also, I'm greatly appreciative to be a part of the Van Stones Corporation. I've been working with him for many years and off and on, and he does a lot with the mayors, the children, just helping our children stay more strong in their beliefs and just more positive in their living the way they think. So, he's a great guy who, has been out here for many years, and he is no one that doesn't know him. So he's well known, renowned, and I want to just talk too about, make this sweet and short, about what I do and the support through the years. I make a long story short, I've been doing it for now 37 years professionally. I've been on tours, and I will always appreciate and honor the success story that I leave as a legacy of the lookalikes. We were one of the three, Carrie Marshall, myself, and Michael Dow, back in the days, and we're talking about the very early 80s, where we always was out there doing shows with the band, traveling and stuff. But they've been doing that as well, and it was the three amigos, we called ourselves. And I started with as a child, always being told that I look like them, and I never thought so. So to make a long story short, I just said, I'm going to show the world I can be Michael if I tend to do so. And I won an evening magazine contest that took for a tour, but I wasn't really into it because I was working at that time, and I was young, like 20, 21. So my mindset wasn't there to traveling because, as a young adult, that's the last thing you think about. So to make a long story short, management approached me, and I was on Entertainment Tonight, and that led to Sally Raphael and Montel and all these other talk shows. And so I had management, Rob Russin, Creative Entertainment, come to me and wanted, he put a proposal for me to travel, and I wasn't into it at the time, but he said, you'll do 20 years contract. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And because he was talking money, so to me, I was young and I was thinking, wow, I can help people with, what I'd be blessed with. So that's where that came about, and I did. And just children and stuff like that. And I traveled around the world, and Michael was eventually wanting to know who this was, getting a lot of popularity. So then his people reached my people and helped my people, so my tour could look better, which I was told by my manager at that time. And then we just started traveling around the world, and I was doing things at entertainers and performing different venues that were maybe large, medium, or small, that entertainers perform. So I really had a good travel life. It went 11 years before it was cut down because of different silly things that happened with allegations and all this mess, where he had to stop, I had to stop, and then I went into recording. So, I did a lot in my life, and that I could feel good about.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask you a couple questions. You pretty much told how you met Van Stone. So are you involved with reading captains and other things in Philly Funk Radio? Partially, knowing that you're a busy person doing a lot of tours and stuff.
Well, it's like my schedule sometimes doesn't allow for some of that, but I have back in the past involved myself with some of the what you had mentioned.
Okay. So you are a Michael Jackson impersonator, and knowing that it's especially as a person on social media, and especially as a child, I did Michael Jackson reenactment shows. I think I did like Billie Jean a couple times. I think I did Beat It. Another Part of Me.
Oh, that's cool.
Maybe a couple. And I think yesterday when I was in a party, I did like a Michael Jackson dances.
Oh, that's
For
so
some
cool.
females. So like knowing that's like a big genre and like because there is some like controversies too with like the Michael Jackson the person. I know this one person, I forgot his name. I think he's from England, I think. I forgot his name. I know he teamed up with another two other guys. I know the other guy's names are. I think his name is Michael Jackson. And Michael Trapson, I forget.
Kano.
Yeah.
Oh, Kano.
I know he's Caucasian, but he portrays himself as Michael Jackson, and people have a problem with him because after the Michael Jackson trailer came out, he was visibly upset that Michael Jackson's nephew is betraying him and he's not. And how do you feel about that with not just him but like other Michael Jackson's impersonators and yeah.
You know what? That is a good point. I mean, I never. It's sometimes because if anybody should have got upset, it would have been me because I've been out in the world. And everybody knows me, entertainers and people like that. His people knows me. So, but I couldn't go there because what's meant for me is meant for me. And like with Charles Dutton, for instance, I did What Must Be the Music in his movie that's out in OG. And sometimes the look, they don't look for a look that's too much like him. They look for a look that can bring, you know what I'm saying? It's not, because my life hindered me from being the one, I should say. Because they like, oh, why do you say I want Michael? I want something not so serious. So it seems like, and I wasn't trying to portray that. It's just the spirit, man, that got me, I should say, in trouble with being where I really wanted to do movies, this and that, acting and stuff, and they like,
Okay. Another interesting question that you partially mentioned on, this is also sort of controversial. You don't gotta go too in deep with it, but knowing that you mentioned like the allegations, I think there was some 1993, and I think in like the 2000, I think it was 2004. I think it was like around when I was born. But during those two allegations, how did it affected your business as a Michael Jackson impersonator, knowing that there were tons of people that do love Michael Jackson even during the allegations, but there was tons of people who hated Michael Jackson because the things that he allegedly did and how it affected your business?
ooh, you said a mouthful there. When those allegations did hit, my tour just dropped, boom, flat on its back, and they didn't want the Michael, so I went in hiding, but yet I was still being booked for shows, but it just wasn't live shows. And I was getting interrogated from some of the clients. I mean, they were not the clients, but the audience, calling me names, when I'm performing, trying to, do little things but I had to stay as a professional and not go, you can't go off and hit him because then lawsuits. So I still had to say, that's not funny. And, you just got to stay in that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and another question I'm gonna ask, this is not so much serious, knowing how Michael Jackson, not just with the older audience, but now he's getting more of a new fan base, with Gen Z. Firstly, for me, I like, you know, there's people more recently that listen and dance to Michael Jackson. I've been listening to Michael Jackson's song. Like, when I was a child, or even when I was in high school too, if you asked me like any Michael Jackson song, I would know it. Like, I would know
Awesome.
like any like dangerous song. A couple was like
Yes.
off the wall songs, like Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, Off the Wall, Working Day and Night, I Can't Help It, which was produced by his cousin Stevie Wonder, and then the Thriller song. I know many of them, so I had a Thriller album. I don't know what happened to that, and I know many of his bad songs, and like I know most of his dangerous songs when he like left not Motown. What's his name? I forgot his name. He died a couple of years ago. I forgot his name. And then like Dangerous and History, and then Invincible. Even to This Is It. But like, how do you feel about Michael Jackson's influence, particularly with the younger generation that wasn't like a lot? I mean, I was alive during his death. Like, I remember especially watching like one of his like 2001 like anniversary live show, and then watch like, I remember being with my dad watching This Is It tour and how they did it, and that's how I became such a like Michael Jackson fan, especially as like, because especially around that time there was like artists like Lil Wayne, Drake, and all that type of stuff, but I was such a big Michael Jackson fan. Like I mean I cared about some of like Kanye West and like Weeknd and Bruno Mars, but like me to like somebody that I wasn't alive during his prime, and he has not just an influence on me, but other people that's younger than me and a little bit older than me. How do you feel about that?
Great question. You know what, Michael, out of all that I've seen, he has such a huge impression on everybody. I mean, I see today, you even see animals dancing to him, birds and cats. I'm like, what in the world? Is this AI? But it doesn't be AI, it's actual animals. So even babies, I mean, it's amazing the influence he had on everything in the world. And he's just, his beautiful soul, his spirit, just everybody, like you said yourself, it's like just amazing the influence he had on the world, trying to change the world and make it a better place. And it takes an army, sometimes not an army, but sometimes it takes 2 or 3, 4. But he was just, I think he was just the light of the world, and he was chosen.
Yeah. That makes me lead up to like another question. Like, knowing that Michael Jackson was a big person with like philanthropy, if I'm saying it correctly. He worked with children, minus all the controversies with the allegations and stuff like he did some stuff with children. He did some stuff like he was a big like person for the community. How does that affect you, especially as a Michael Jackson impersonator, and how did that influence you to want to help out, not like people around you, but also young people?
That had a lot of influence to do with me because of my musical background. It just made me want to move forward and do what I was chosen to do as well. And it seems like every which way, shape, and form I went to, everybody had that same about me and my spirit and the way I move and stuff that is so similar to Michael. Even he thought that he was looking at a cosmic twin. Like, oh wow. I'll never forget the moments me and him spoke, or the moments I did stuff for him, Michael USA in New York, before 9/11. Ooh. So it was the next day, we all was gone. So, and the impact that I got that was similar, and I'm not the real thing, but people looked at me that way, but I never was cuckoo to think, oh, I'm gonna be Michael. You know, I never did that. So, but that impact, like you just said, very meaningful, because I love seeing children happy as well. And I think people need more love. So I think that's why I'm driven to keep doing what I do.
Okay, so I think I think this is like probably like, I'm gonna answer a couple, other questions that's on top of my head. You mentioned that you, met Michael Jackson, and did they had to go through to meet him? What was your interaction with Michael Jackson?
You know what? It was beautiful. Philadelphia Plaza Hotel in Philadelphia. And I was on my way to Jersey for a show. Never knew that I was right in front of the back of their garage of that hotel that him and his brothers were doing the Victory Tour, and I was doing Thriller Tour that he gave me the rights and okay him and his family to do it. It was just weird. Our car was broke down, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, how am I gonna get to my show?" So. My manager called AAA, and kids and the fans just came around, and I wasn't even in costume or nothing. I was cognito, and they were saying, "Oh my God, Michael, Michael!" And I'm like looking for him myself, and then they running over there, and I'm like, "Oh no, I'm not Michael, Micky J." And they said, "No, that's Michael Jackson." And take a picture, and I'm like, "What in the world's going on?" And then all of a sudden, the garage doors open, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness!" They said, "Wait a minute, if that's Michael, then who's this?" I just thought that was so funny. And then I'm seeing Jermaine and the driver and stuff and that black van, and they like looking, I'm standing froze because I'm like, wait a minute, I am really standing in front of the brothers. Marlon and all of them is in there. You could see the front, so you see who you're looking at. And they beep, 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 beep. And they was like, "Get out of the way, Michael." And I'm like, oh my goodness, how do I react to this? And I'm backing up because I was so stunned that this was actually the brothers Jacksons. And to make a long story short, the next day, Michael they parked, and he went around the corner, came back around, and Bill Bray cued me to come over. I'll never forget that. And he shook my hand, wouldn't let my hand go. And I was really trying to get in the van, but the fans beat me to it. And then they had to just, because when fans go crazy, you got to react. His bodyguards and stuff. And I saw Michael do that and then wave. I waved at him and he waved at me. And then the next day we went to the hotels. Antoinette Cook, she was working with Diane Brown and doing entertainments as well. She got me to talk to Michael, Frank DeLeo, and so in a hotel room. We were underneath them. And to make a long story short, me and Michael was like, not going at it, but it was like funny conversation. And it was, I was like really touched because I'm like, oh my God, I'm speaking to Michael Jackson. And he was like, "I'm the one that did this and ranked you the #1 and blah, blah, blah." And I said, "Yeah, you went in my personal business too." And then when I realized who I'm talking to, this is Michael. I said, "Michael, you can go in my personal business, find out who I am and everything." I said, "Because you're Michael Jackson, it's nothing to hide." So we giggled and stuff like that. And then I went up to Bill Bray's with Greg, one of Michael's designer, and he said, "Act like you're Michael." I said, "Why? What am I supposed to say?" And we went up to steps and he knocked on the door. I was not ready for this. I'm like, what is he getting me into? And then I heard somebody say, "Who is it?" And I said, "Hey, Bill Bray, open the door. It's Michael Jackson."